Good afternoon, everybody. Let's talk about skin tags and those dark skin patches called, I always say acanthosis nigricans, but acanthosis nigricans. So if you have them on your neck, on your elbows, on your knees, I want you to understand where they're coming from, why this is happening, but also understand, especially with the dark skin patches, that 80 to 90% of people with insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, diabetes, have those dark skin patches. I'm going to talk about what insulin resistance is. I'm going to talk about how it increases your risk of both of those and how you can get over them more naturally without all the medical and other like topicals and stuff that everybody's recommending. So let's talk about this. Normally I say that blood pressure is one of the number one ways that you can tell you have an insulin problem. And I still hold by that. But can anybody guess, out of skin tags and the acanthosis nigricans, what's a better indicator even than high blood pressure, and maybe the first indicator that almost everyone sees as they head down this path of insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, diabetes? Does anybody know whether it's 1 for skin tags or 2 for acanthosis nigricans? Do you guys know which one is the real indicator for whether you're developing a problem with insulin? If you know, or you think you know, put it in the chat. Let's start a discussion about it. I want to know where you guys are at. Welcome in, everybody, by the way. So good to see everyone in here. I want to dive in today and really explain this so you can understand what's happening to your skin, at least with these two for today, and insulin resistance. But yeah, guess what? It does affect acne and all of that too. So, all right, any guesses? Well, it's going to be acanthosis nigricans. So those dark skin patches, whether it's that dark ring around your neck, the darkened patches on your elbows and your knees, that's happening from insulin resistance, but so is skin tags. But if you start seeing those darkened skin patches, understand that you have an insulin problem and you need to start addressing it now. That's an early warning sign for you, okay? So let's talk about insulin resistance really quick because I want you to understand insulin resistance and why this is happening. And we're going to get into a number of different things today. So insulin resistance. There's a number of reasons why you could become insulin resistant. Stress is one, inflammation is one, seed oils increase inflammation, which increase your stress hormones, that's one. But the biggest driver for insulin resistance by and far is glucose or sugar. And so I'm not just talking about like white sugar, cane sugar, I'm talking about things like is glucose or sugar. And so I'm not just talking about like white sugar, cane sugar, I'm talking about things like is glucose or sugar. And so I'm not just talking about like white sugar, cane sugar, I'm talking about things like is glucose or sugar. And so I'm not just talking about like white sugar, cane sugar, I'm talking about things like energy in your body. And if your cells want to grow and be healthy, if you want to have energy, if you want to feed your brain, you got to have this energy, right? So it's necessary. Why do we then always complain about insulin and say insulin resistance is a problem? Because we're being fed too much glucose too often in today's world. So think about it like this. Your cells have a receptor or a lock. So like you're walking up to the front door, right? There's a lock you got to unlock to come in the door. Insulin is the key that unlocks that door. But in insulin resistance, it's like this lock is getting used so much that it's getting rusty and faulty and defunct. And now the key may still fit in, but it doesn't like to open that lock like it should. Now you don't have entry into the home, and think of that as your cells are happening. They just can't get the energy in, and this starts to become devastating throughout your body. You can't get the nutrients in and the energy that your cells need to thrive. And this includes your brain. So we've talked a lot about neurological disorders, Alzheimer's, all of that, but we're going to talk about skin today. But here's the opposite side. And if you've followed me for a while, you've heard me say this a few times. Although there are these cells that are getting tired. I'm going to talk about it another way I like to talk about it. Say you're living in a condo or an apartment building and the little lady next door brings over a welcoming casserole or cookies and she just wants to chat once in a while. And you're like, yeah, I love seeing you. You bring me good stuff. I'll open my door for you anytime. But then all of a sudden, a bunch of college kids move in and they're knocking on the door and doing ding, doorbell, ditch, whatever. And it's just constant chaos in those hallways. And there's too much knocking on the doors. And now you don't want to open the door ever. It's kind of what your body feels like under insulin resistance. So let's break it back one more step so you guys can understand this. Our food is driving the problem, not a lack of medications, not a lack of anything else. It's too much food too often. So insulin is a hormone. Hormone's job is to deliver the energy to the cells. But with insulin resistance, that hormone is being produced too much. Every time you eat, your body cues, especially with the carbohydrates, your body cues from your brain down to your pancreas. Your pancreas is where the insulin is created for you to create insulin so that it can carry this glucose that's in the bloodstream and get it to the cells. Otherwise, it just kind of sits in the bloodstream, okay? So as we're cueing this insulin, when we eat, we're cueing it too much, right? Now it's like filling a water bucket. And we fill a water bucket so far and it's okay. And we use up a little bit of that water. And then as the bucket gets lower, we fill it. But what we're doing with food is we're overfilling that bucket and it's just spilling over all the time. And now we cannot possibly use all of the energy that we're putting into our bodies. There's a cycle that happens. It has to have a couple hours for your blood sugars to spike after you eat, has to have a couple of hours for them to come back down, has to have about 4 hours after that before insulin can come back down after it got cued to be spiked by the sugar that's in your bloodstream. So it's at least 8 hours after you eat before insulin comes down. Why is that important? Because insulin is, and we're going to use this word again in regards to another hormone in a little bit. Insulin is anabolic, meaning it wants things to grow. So when we're over spiking insulin all the time, I want you to be thinking about skin tags and those dark skin patches, right? When we're cueing insulin all the time, it's anabolic. It wants things to grow. So keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to get there. But now insulin is trying to get this energy to the cells. It wants things to grow. It wants things to be healthy. Super important hormone for us to have. But again, we just have too much of it. So some of the cells are saying no to it. Some of the cells are saying, I'll take it. I need it. We'll deal with it. And then the rest of the glucose that can't come out of your bloodstream starts going in your fat cells. That's your storage unit. We're going to come back to the skin in a second. But now one of the things that happens, and I haven't explained this for a long time, is that when your fat cells start to get too full, and they will start to spill that glucose back out into your bloodstream. And now, oh my gosh, your blood sugars go up, your A1C is going up, and now all of a sudden you're being told you're diabetic. The cue is not to take a shot of insulin, to do all of those things. The cue is to give your body a rest. Don't make it produce insulin all the time. All right, so most cells are saying no to insulin in an insulin resistant state. No sound. Why no sound? Let me see if I can fill that. Jill, fix that. And that's a good cue for me because I need to reuse this. Hang on, guys. We're going to try and fix the sound over here for everybody else. Hold on. Let's see. Hopefully you can hear me now. Jill, can you hear me now? Guys, I'm live on Facebook and YouTube as well. Jill, can you hear me? You should be able to hear me now. So I hope you can. That would explain why people aren't hopping on that this morning. So here's the thing. Now, we have these cells that are saying, no, it's too much. I can't use all this. And so they're starting to get sick because they're just not taking in the energy they need. Maybe those cells have gotten sick and are Okay, I'm going to shut it down over here. I will repost it onto YouTube from my TikTok. Go to TikTok, we'll watch it there. I'll fix the sound in a minute. Well, wait, let me see if I can fix the sound over on this other one. That's odd. So, okay, Jill, what about now? I'm talking on Facebook too, you guys. So Jill, can you hear now? I'm going to continue talking till you're ready. But so remember, we're back to cells won't use the insulin. Okay. Cells don't like to use the insulin. They're inundated. They just can't use it. But we have two cells. There are others, but we're going to talk about skin. So two cells that will take up too much. And that's keratinocytes that give your skin structure and melanocytes that give your skin color. In the presence of insulin resistance, what happens is it messes with your growth hormone, another peptide, a peptide hormone. It messes with that pathway. Growth hormone should be helping us repair, should be helping us build muscle and bone and repairing tissue. But in insulin resistance, that pathway gets disrupted, and now there's too much going to some of these cells like keratinocytes and melanocytes. So that growth hormone, let's talk about acanthosis nigricans. Melanocytes that give your skin color. Now you can understand if we're overproducing skin color, melanin, melanocytes create melanin. Think of not just the acanthosis nigricans, but things like the patchy skin, melasma. That's happening as this pathway gets disrupted and too much energy is going into them. And by the way, there's a small place in your brain called the pituitary that creates both melanocytes and keratinocytes. So, acanthosis nigricans, too much melanin. Now you have this darkened neck and elbows. Does anybody have those? Because I had them on my elbows. And it wasn't just that there was skin darkening. My skin started to feel like leathery and rough, and it just got really thick in some of those areas. Cue keratinocytes. The growth hormone pathway is disrupted and too many keratinocytes are being created. Now your skin is getting really thick in the same areas that it's getting really dark, and it's patchy and it's rough. And no matter how much lotion and other things that you're putting on it, it just isn't getting better because it's an internal problem. It's not an external problem. It's an external manifestation of an internal problem. Make sense? So to get rid of acanthosis nigricans, this dark skin color and the leathery skin, you got to reduce the insulin levels, which means reduce the sugar levels in your body. Okay. And remember, that's going to be one of the first ways that most people can tell that their insulin and their blood sugars are out of control is when you start seeing those dark patches. But I've talked about elbows, knees, neck. You know, they can also happen in your groin, in your underarms, anywhere where skin is rubbing. I've seen it around people's ankles, on the back of their collars. That agitation is creating more growth there when there's too much insulin in your system and you have insulin resistance going on. In an insulin sensitive body, I'm going to shut it down over here because it just doesn't seem to be working. In an insulin sensitive body, those pathways are working correctly and you're not having that problem. Remember though, if you see someone, I caught prediabetes in my granddaughter because of this one clue. I saw the darkened skin patches. I said, we need to get her checked. Sure enough, she was already pre-diabetic at the age of 11. It's your first clue that you can see, right? Your skin is your first clue. Now, skin tags are also excess keratinocytes. In this form, and it can actually happen on the same places as the acanthosis nigricans. So what's happening now, where on your elbows and knees where that friction is happening, it's causing that thick leathery skin. With skin tags, it's actually creating way too much skin cell production in an area that pops out as these little finger-like, mushroom-like tags on your neck, on your eyes, in your groin, under your arms, It's not, you're not going to see it on your elbows and knees. You're going to see the thickened skin patches there. But those, many of the same areas where you see acanthosis nigricans, you'll find skin tags. Again, when we link it all back, it comes back to too much sugar, too often creating too much insulin in our system that throws everything out of whack. Now, let's think about it though. Let's go over the timeline to start to reverse it, right? Because intermittent fasting is absolutely necessary to start getting some of your insulin problems under control. So I said about 2 hours after you eat for your blood sugars to spike, about 4 hours before they actually start to come back down. At about 8 hours, 4 hours later from that, your insulin can say, oh, they're not putting more energy in. It's okay for me to take a step down. The queen's guard, the body's guard can start to step down now, and insulin's kind of like goes to sleep. Not the big bully in the yard anymore, okay? Thank you for all the loves, you guys. I see them, and I'm so sorry I haven't said something, but I appreciate the loves. Helps everybody get this information. Now, when insulin comes down, the other hormone or one of the other hormones that's produced in your pancreas can start to do its job. Remember, I said that insulin is anabolic, wanting things to grow, right? Guess what happens when you want things to grow? You're not going to break down fat. You're not going to break down things in your body. Insulin's desperately trying to hold on to it. So it's storing fat, but you can't break it down. When you get your insulin to go to sleep, the other hormone called glucagon can come out. Now, glucagon is catabolic. It wants to eat things up. Here's the mind-blowing thing. Glucagon is actually trying to rise your blood sugar up again. Because what glucagon is saying is, I got to go out and eat up stuff like fat cells, like damaged cells, because we need to break that down and back into energy that the body can use because there's no energy coming in. That's glucagon. It's catabolic, wants to break things down. The T I always talk about how it increases growth hormone. It gets like, so then if you start thinking, you're like, well, but Misha, if you said that growth hormone, too much of it is causing excess melanocytes, excess keratinocytes. Now I've got dark skin patches and I've got skin tags. How does that work? What does that mean? That means that in an insulin-fed state, when your body is insulin resistant and it's disrupting the pathway for growth hormone, you end up with those skin tags and dark skin patches. But when you get insulin down and those receptors start to open up and insulin's not blocking these pathways anymore, now that growth hormone can go to things like muscle, bones, and repairing tissue. So if you want your body to heal, yes, intermittent fasting is absolutely necessary. It's part of the cycle. It's like going to the wall. If you walk in your house and you turn on every light switch, I got to have light in the house. It's daylight. I want to work. And you turn on every light switch. Now that's like insulin present in your body. But say it's a dimmer switch. And so you go into some rooms and you don't want the light on all the way. Some rooms you want the light on really bright. Some rooms you maybe don't want it on at all. But with insulin resistance, it's like turning that dimmer switch all the way up in every room all the time. And at first it may be like, not a big deal. I can see everything. I know what I'm doing. I can get stuff done. And, ooh, shoot, there's dirt over there I need to clean up. But when it's time to sleep, when it's time to rest, when your body needs to heal, that dimmer switch can't be dimmed because it's stuck on. That's insulin resistance, right? Your dimmer switch and your lights are on all the time. When what you really need is to be able to turn that dimmer switch off so you can go to sleep. Okay, insulin resistance is like that. But now, hour 8, insulin finally, because you're starting to work on it, you can finally get those dimmer switches down, right? At hour 10, glucagon, that catabolic hormone I started talking about, goes, hey, I can come out and do my thing because insulin is not there. There's not energy. I need to go get energy broken down from all these fat cells and all this other stuff so that the body has energy. That's at hour 10. At about hour 12, now glucagon has sent its cues out. Now we have an increase in human growth hormone or growth hormone. We have an increase in ketones. And those things are helping you burn fat, supplying your body for energy and your brain for energy. Your brain will prefer glucose if it's there, but guess what? It runs better on ketones or broken down fat than it does glucose. We just never get to the point where we allow our brains to work on the fat part, right? Or the ketones. Your brain functions extremely well when you're in a fasted state. So, ketones growth hormone at about hour 12. But it takes a little bit of time for those to actually start doing their job in the body, for your body to start repairing tissue, for your body to start to break down fat and all of that. That's at about hour 14. So why I say a 16-8 fast, 16 or longer, is that at 16 hours, now you've had at least 2 hours of good fat burning, of cellular turnover, of this growth hormone and ketones doing their job in your body. Now, those skin tags and the acanthosis nigricans are starting to go away because they're not overfed growth hormone. The pathways are open, even though growth hormone is going up because glucagon came out. It's no longer going to the skin cells alone, it's going to things like muscle, bone, and other tissue. Now we have a proper use of hormone called growth hormone or peptide hormone that's allowing us to repair. But we cannot do this repair in the right way when insulin is blocking it all the time. I hope that makes sense. I hope everybody's getting this. So, skin tags and acanthosis nigricans actually really simply go away when you start to address insulin resistance. It's complicated, but not. Now, growth hormone and insulin, let's talk about them. Because it seems like, what's happening is insulin is put out in the body when you eat. When your glucose goes up, when you eat fruits and vegetables, when you eat those bagged box barcoded things, when you eat breads and pastas, your insulin is going up because your glucose is going up. Glucose stimulates insulin. So what stimulates growth hormone? Well, more so proteins, okay? So yes, it's possible to have growth hormone and insulin present in the body at the same time. Absolutely it is. But again, remember, insulin is blocking the receptors, and so growth hormone can't do its job in all the cells. Now we start to look at the fact that most people who are insulin resistant are losing muscle tissue every year that they're insulin resistant. So you're losing muscle tissue. And if you've noticed, people who are diabetic or insulin resistant just seem to have less dense muscle structure. Maybe their shoulders are sloped, maybe their butt droops, maybe their neck is drooping. That's insulin resistance not allowing the growth hormone to get where it needs, and the muscles are paying the price. Get the insulin down, the growth hormone can come in, build healthy bones, build healthy muscle, repair tissues. Protein is going to spike your growth hormone. We want it spiked when the insulin is down. So here's a tip. After that fast that you did, after you got your insulin level down and you got your glucagon up, wouldn't it make sense that that's the exact time you want to put some protein and maybe some fats, which the protein will spike your insulin a little, the fats is not going to spike your insulin, and now is the great time to get that growth hormone further stimulated when those receptors for it are all open so you can build healthy muscle. And I'm not just talking about bodybuilder muscle. I'm talking about the muscle you need to carry you through every day, to pick up packages, to walk up and down stairs. But muscle tissue is also heart, liver, kidneys, intestines. All of that is muscle tissue. So it's not just the muscle that we can see that's going away with insulin resistance. You have laxity in the other muscles too. And it's really important that they get the nutrients, the growth hormone, and the energy that they need to grow. Okay? Fats and proteins. This is so important because there's so many people who've been doing low fat, cutting the egg yolk out, buying the lean cuts of meat, because you're told that it's causing heart disease, that it's causing atherosclerosis, that it's causing this cholesterol problem in your system. It's not. What fats, dietary fats, are doing is giving the cellular structure that holds the muscle together. So if you're eating a lot of protein and then doing things like creatine to pump up that muscle, and you don't give yourself enough fats that build up that membrane around the muscle, you're going to have a problem called rhabdomyolysis, right? Makes sense? Always pair proteins with fats. Now, carbohydrates are something else. Carbohydrates are creating your glucose. So what do we do when we have so many carbohydrates all the time? Am I telling you got to go keto? Am I telling you you can't have the carbohydrates you love? No, I'm not, but understand this concept. Remember, carbohydrates spike your glucose, that spikes your insulin. What keeps the carbohydrates under control is fiber. And it's the one thing, I call it the super nutrient, that we're missing because it's been stripped out of, especially our bagged box barcoded foods, but it's also stripped out of our fruits and vegetables, even our organic ones. Our fruits and vegetables look wholly different than they used to. Does anybody know, has anybody seen what a banana, the fruit of a banana, should actually look like? It has long strands of fiber. We see some remnants of that right now, right? But nature, in trying to slow us down from getting in all this glucose all the time, in bananas, natural organic bananas, real heirloom bananas, should have these pebble-like seeds. They're like little stones in them. And why? Well, yeah, it needs them to help regrow bananas, but it also is very protective for slowing down how quickly you can ingest that fructose, glucose, from the banana. So you have fiber in there to protect, and you have these seeds. Watermelons used to have a ton of seeds in them. They weren't near as juicy and sweet. We started modifying all these foods, stripping out the fiber that protects us from the glucose spike, and stripping out the seeds that slow us down from ingesting it too quickly. And now we wonder why our glucose is spiked all the time. And you wonder why you go to your doctor, your nutritionist, and they say, stop eating so much. There's a doctor called Dr. Giles Yao. He's written a couple of books. One is Gene Eating, and one is Why Calories Don't Count. So I did a little video on that the other day, and somebody said, well, if you're not cutting calories, how are you losing weight? Here's the thing. If you're sedentary and you're older like me and you're eating 5,000 calories a day, you're going to put on weight, right? I don't care how much intermittent fasting you do, but if you eat a regular amount of calories, I'm not telling you to go from 2,000 calories down to 1,500 or 1,200 or 500 calories to lose weight. I'm saying stop eating and let the hormones start balancing. And this Dr. Bickman, I don't think there's a current study. I'll see if I can find one. But the last time I heard from him, there was no real study, but he's seen and supposes, his idea is that with intermittent fasting, a person could have 2,000 calories and eat 12 hours a day. And because they're constantly spiking their insulin and not letting the hormones go down, they could start gaining weight. That same 2,000 calorie diet could be condensed into about an 8-hour window. And because you're allowing your hormones to balance, glucagon and insulin, you won't have the weight gain because your body's doing what it's supposed to. So there's a question, AST and ALT. Does this product help with AST test and low creatinine? So through the pathway of addressing insulin resistance, it can. So insulin resistance is also changing your AST and your ALT levels. It puts a load on your kidneys, but it also puts a load on your liver. It puts a load on your gallbladder, and I can talk about those later this week. But yes, by balancing the hormone insulin, it can absolutely change those levels back to a normal range. It did for me. My AST and my ALT were completely out of range 4 years ago, and nobody was addressing it because they were so freaked out about my blood pressure, my weight, and my diabetes. Those were the things that they were focused on. I was the one who addressed. I was looking at my labs and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. My liver panel's jacked. Why haven't we talked about this? But by that time, my liver panel was back in normal range, okay? And that's why I caught it, because I was like seeing the difference in the numbers. So absolutely, this can positively affect your liver, your kidneys, your gallbladder, your heart, your lungs, especially your gut microbiome. Let's talk about that too. I'm not getting into acne today, but understand that those high levels of sugar are causing cystic acne. It starts in your gut. How many hours should you fast with this product? Teresa, that's really going to depend on the person. The recommended time is 16 hours. So I broke my fast a little bit early today. I had lunch about an hour and a half ago. So at about 2 o'clock, I had my lunch. I had my last meal at about, I had my last meal at about 8, and I did have a snack at like 10, which I'm not supposed to snack, but I did last night. So I made it 14 hours today. Normally I wait 16 hours. So if I have my dinner at 7 o'clock tonight, I would just, do the rest of my evening routine, not sit down with a bag of popcorn or chips or any of that stuff, and sleep most of my fast off. When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to start the morning with a tea that we drink, right? And I'll talk about what the tea does. And then I'm going to sip on that tea until my 16 hours is up, and then I'll have my first meal. So I did a little bit of food prep today. I baked up a bunch of chicken, different spices on them. I made a big pot of tortilla soup, more carbohydrates in that than I normally would eat. But tomorrow, maybe I will start my day with some eggs and some sausage. Protein and fats. In essence, that extends that fast a little bit, because again, you're getting you're keeping your glucagon up, you're getting the growth hormone continuing, that extra fat, dietary fat, and I'm talking butter, avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, will help keep those ketones being pumped out. And now those actions that I've achieved at hours 14 and 16 continue, maybe in a little bit lesser volume than they would if I was just completely fasting. But if I start with something like sausage and eggs, by the way, yes, I buy no nitrate sausage, I can extend the benefits of that little bit of fast a little longer. Then I just have that bowl of tortilla soup, corn, carrots. Yes, I put avocado in mine. I put sour cream in mine. Navy beans, black beans, chicken, spices. That'll be my dinner tomorrow night. A little bit higher glycemic, more carbohydrates, still pretty heavy on proteins and fats. That's probably how I'll eat tomorrow. It's not boring. It's not frustrating. It's not anything. But healthy. And this product helps with that. Okay. It's also what allowed me to lose 55 pounds postmenopausal with no gallbladder. Okay. Anybody in here have no gallbladder? Because if you're a woman with no gallbladder, I know that it's hard to lose weight. Okay. It's really hard to lose weight because having no gallbladder changes your hormones completely. And it messes with your leptin and your ghrelin and your insulin, all of it. By the way, insulin, this was not the talk for today, but I'm going to drop this knowledge. Insulin changes how leptin and ghrelin work in your body. So your hunger, ghrelin, and your leptin, your satiety hormones, will change how they work in your body depending on how insulin resistant you are. So ghrelin starts to become overactive and you're hungry all the time. Leptin starts to become underactive and you just never feel full. That's a result of insulin resistance, as a result of too much sugar, as a result of eating all the time, as a result of us not having enough fiber in our foods every day. So, you guys, I'm probably going to, not this week because I just did all the food prep and the soup doesn't freeze well, but I will probably do an extended fast of just a couple of days because I'm almost 61 and I want to keep getting my body cleaned up. I've had years and years of not having the right answers and understanding how food affects me. But the point is, when I fast, if I fast for 24 hours, if I fast for 48 hours, if I fast for 36 hours, I will still have the tea and the pre-meal drink during those fasting hours. For the purposes that I'm doing with my body, it does not break my fast. The tea supports my fast, increasing human growth hormone, increasing ketones, increasing my energy, increasing how satiated or full I feel, that I'm not hungry all day. It makes fasting so much easier. Plus, it tastes pretty great. But it also is increasing that hormone that everybody's injecting all the time, the GLP-1 hormone. That increase in GLP-1 is what's causing some of that satiety, both in the brain and in the gut. It's occurring naturally in the tea, and the tea is increasing it in this form of tea up to 70% higher than you would naturally, but in a form that your body isn't going to start to break down from. It also helps you be more insulin sensitive. So the tea has components in it that help your insulin start to be recognized by your cells better. Now we're starting to flip that switch, right? We're starting to get that rustiness out of the lock, and we're starting to allow our body to do the job it's meant to do. So many more things with this tea than just the GLP-1 and the insulin sensitivity. It does also help regulate blood sugars. The pre-meal drink, and both of them are packaged like this. The pre-meal drink helps slow down the blood sugar. So when I have that amazing tortilla soup that I made, I will just have a packet of this before I eat it, because there's carbohydrates in it. The fiber in this helps slow down the delivery of those carbohydrates, so my insulin spikes about 27 to 30% less than it would without it. Not every fiber does that. It's the soluble fibers in this product that do that, and that's important because the fiber products you guys are getting out there are not made of soluble fibers. They're the ones that are proven to address your blood sugar control. Okay, any other? I see lots of, and welcome in everybody. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. So we started to talk about skin, and a number of you are new in here. Maybe you didn't hear about the skin. If you want me to reiterate in a short form anything about skin tags and the dark skin patches and why insulin resistance is causing them, let me know and I'll go back over them. But those of you who have skin tags, it's not an old age problem. It's an excess insulin problem. Before I started diving into all the research and actually being able to have some conversation with Dr. Bickman and just studying, I thought that skin tags were just an effect of me being older. I'm 61 in just a couple of weeks. I started getting them in my early 50s. Like my mom had them, my grandma had them. Of course I have them. I'm older. I'm a grandma. I have 4 grandkids. Of course, it's just natural. It's just normal. I don't like them, but it's just the way it is. No, it's not. 10 years later, I don't have a single skin tag on my body. I have never had one lasered off, cut off, rubber banded off, none of it. By the way, one of the doctor's offices I worked in, we had an esthetician who worked with us. We don't have to do all of that, guys. Get your insulin under control, and that reverses. This morning, I told a story of a young man whose mother was living in poverty conditions in North Idaho, and he would come into the manufacturing facility. We made saddle wear, equestrian wear, saddle pads. There were showers in our facility, so he would come in the morning, shower, and then go to school. But oftentimes he would come out and he had like this ring around his neck and on his elbows and his knees. I didn't know anything about insulin resistance or acanthosis nigricans, and my young butt always was so judgmental of that young kid, like, dude, do you know how to take a shower? Well, no, it wasn't that he wasn't showering. It was that the food that his mother was giving him, because she was doing the best she could, was making him diabetic, and nobody understood that that's why he had these dark, dark rings around his neck. And the poor kid was bullied and picked on, and the mom was growing hair on her face and losing hair on her head, and she was having some of the same skin issues. All of it because of food and eating these bagged, boxed, barcoded foods that are creating our sugar to spike too high and eating too often. We do not need to snack like we snack. I'm guilty, you guys. I snack. I have ADHD. When I get really keyed up, I really want to snack. It's a dopamine problem for me, right? Guess what? The tea helps me with that. Even with ADHD and those proclivities, this helps me keep that snacking at bay, because that snacking is what's spiking your insulin. And by the way, those high levels of insulin can cause more problems with your ADHD, your anxiety, and your depression. It's not just your skin. So we're going to go back to the beginning. Does anybody need me to explain again in simple terms what insulin resistance is? Red dot insulin resistant, size of a pencil tip. I'm not understanding that question, Cece. Can you reframe that? Sometimes my mind goes left when you're going right, so I just need you to understand and rephrase that question, okay? So I can understand what you're trying to get at, and then I can try and answer. And then I'll get that answer for you. So again, insulin resistance is just too much sugar, too much insulin. Your cells are not responding. The easiest way to address it is getting control of the mechanisms that your body needs when you're eating food and slowing down how quickly you eat. I do want to address something else. I've been talking about this more and more lately again. You guys, insulin resistance, and this comes from metabolic scientist Dr. Bickman. You'll see him on YouTube. He talks everywhere. He has so many talks out there, but he educates diabetes doctors. Okay. What he says, so if you're type 2 diabetic, and by the way, the protocol works whether you're type 1 or type 2, because the same or similar mechanisms with insulin resistance are happening in your body. Type 1 diabetics cannot produce enough insulin or produce any insulin, so you're taking in excess insulin or insulin in general to deal with the sugars. Type 2 can't produce enough to keep up with the sugars that we're putting in our body. But we both, when we have too much insulin, in our bodies, have insulin resistance. So yes, type 1 diabetics can become insulin resistant too. Back to the topic. Type 2 diabetics, if you're being prescribed insulin as a therapy for your diabetes, question your doctor as to why. If the problem is already too much insulin, how are they going to fix your resistance to it by giving you more of it? So Dr. Bickman's words are this: when a doctor is giving a type 2 diabetic insulin, they're making them sicker quicker. They're making them fatter quicker, because remember, insulin stores fat, and they're killing them quicker. Excess insulin with a type 2 diabetic is shortening your lifespan. Please talk to your doctor if this is you, okay? So let's go back to a question here. You're menopausal, pre-diabetic, and know you have fibromyalgia. Now, menopausal, right? By the way, in menopause, because your hormones start to get out of whack, you start to become more predisposed to insulin resistance than at any other point in your life, which means why you have prediabetes, okay? Fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is oftentimes, not always, there are some nerve damage things that can cause fibromyalgia, like as in physical injury, spinal cord injury, whatnot. But when you look at insulin resistance, insulin is impeding your neurological pathways, your nerve pathways, in a number of ways. I just talked about a couple of days ago, but it changes how your nerve pathways communicate. One of the things is that the ends of the nerve pathways are no longer getting messages through directly. So sometimes those messages kind of come out the side of the nerve. You get these little electrical pains. You have just pain because the pathways are impeded and they're not correct. They're not correctly responding to signals or can't get the signals through. It has a whole factor to do with insulin resistance and how that is impeding those nerve pathways. Would you, Kaz, be surprised to know that People who get their insulin resistance under control, I'm one of them, actually start to feel better from fibromyalgia. When your nerve signaling starts to act right because you're insulin sensitive and no longer insulin resistant, now your body is not producing pain signals all the time. It gets better. I had nights before I started the protocol that I was up all night long in pain, restless leg syndrome, fibromyalgia. I was fatigued all the time. My body just hurt. I used to tell my ex-husband that it felt like somebody stuck a vacuum cleaner to my belly button and sucked out all my energy and nothing was left but pain. That's insulin resistance. Get your insulin under control and most of that will go away. Even your menopause symptoms can start to get better because insulin resistance, high amounts of insulin, starts to impede how your female hormones are produced and utilized in your body as well, exacerbating your menopausal symptoms. Okay. Does that make sense? I hope I got through to the right answer for you. So you guys, again, the system is simple. It's, I don't have two teas here. It's a tea. Now I already had my whole tea. This is actually just water. I mix up 2 of these teas in a 40-ounce mug and I sip it throughout the day. I still have a lot to do today. I might have another one. Guess what? I can have a third one because it's real food and it's full of vitamins and minerals. It's a naturally occurring plant that's highly purified and highly concentrated to give us the best benefit from it that we can. In fact, so concentrated that it's 375 times more potent than any bagged box barcoded yerba mate tea, right? But it gives you energy, it gives you mental clarity, it gives you satiety, it helps with insulin sensitivity, it helps with GLP-1 production. It does a great job of all of that. For me, it doesn't keep me awake at night. I can still have it. I've had it at 9, 10 o'clock at night and still slept just fine. That's step 1. 2 of those teas in a day whenever you're feeling hungry, whenever you're feeling a dip in energy. You have the first one in the morning. You have your second one whenever you need. I just like to sip on it all day long. Have it hot or cold. It's going to work. Then the pre-meal drink is 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers. It has phytosterols in it. It has cholesterol lowering properties in it. So if your cholesterol is too high, it can help you with that. It helps regulate your blood sugars, can reduce a blood sugar spike by up to 40%. That's huge. And they're natural food products. Okay. They both have some stevia for sweetener, safe for your metabolism, safe for your body, listed in the PDR. Tons of studies behind both of these products, not just the components in them. Although there's tons of studies with the components too. But if you're interested in it, go to my profile and tap on that right under the red light symbols under my red glasses photo in there. You'll see a link. Go to the link. Do you guys want me to show you it? The top option is to learn more about the protocol I used. And that's going to open you up to a page that explains a little bit about what it is, talks about that it's about $5 a day, and gives you an option to purchase, to contact me for more information, or just say it's not for me. And if it's not for you, that's fine. Maybe one day you'll think, you know what, that lady was talking about it and I think this might help. Just come back. So this is how I do make my money. I appreciate if you use that link and buy from me. I can't tell you how frustrating and devastating it is when people call me and say, well, I've been doing the system, but they're not buying from me. I coach the people I help. And so that's important to me. And I appreciate your honor in what I do and making sure that you're being in integrity with me too. By the way, Amazon, eBay, Walmart, don't buy from them. You're paying way too much. You're not getting the coaching. You're not getting any of the guarantees. I didn't even talk about that. 90-day money back guarantee. I was talking to a gal last night, has a devastating lifelong disorder where I'm hoping that this actually makes, and I think it will, some change for her. It's not going to take away her disorder or her disease. Will it help her with the symptoms that she's left? And by the way, she's more predisposed to diabetes because of her disease. Absolutely. But she has a 90-day money back guarantee. So my suggestion was do it for 90 days. If it helps you in 90 days, hallelujah, right? Hallelujah, amen. But if it doesn't, you just write the company, call the company and say, hey, this didn't work for me, and you get your money back. How many doctor's offices have you gone into and they said, if what I'm telling you to do doesn't work, I'll give you your money back? How many of those pills, injections have you bought that they said, if it doesn't improve your insulin resistance, if it doesn't help you in a real sustainable way, I'm going to give you your money back? None of them. None of them. This is real food products that's allowed to be in the prescriber's digital reference because there's so much science behind it, because it's been clinically studied and scientifically studied, clinically proven, I should say. So there's that. You guys, I'm going to hop off. I did not get to put this live on YouTube because there was some issue with my microphone. I will try to download this video and put it over on YouTube later. If you want to come back to the beginning of the video and learn more about skin tags, acanthosis nigricans, insulin resistance, I would love to have you. I generally try to go on in the morning between 10 and 11, and I've been coming on about 3 to talk about the science stuff. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your engagement. Love that you all are learning more about your health and how you can actually become sustainably healthy. And I'm here for you. I want you to do it. So keep checking back. By the way, I don't go live on the weekends. Although I do this for my business, I do not want to take time from my family. If I can't do a business that allows me to spend time with my family and have a real life, it's not the business for me. So that's the last piece. If you're interested in what I do, if you're interested in having that kind of freedom where you get to set your hours and you get to help people and you get to say, I'm not showing up on Saturday. I have a family event. I'm going to go do that. I can do my business from anywhere in the world I choose to travel to. I can do it from my home. I can do it from my kids' house. And I'm changing lives while I do it. If you're interested in that, let me know because I have that opportunity too. And I would love to discuss it with you because it changed my life. See you guys tomorrow. Have a great one.